Sheridan, gorgeous, amazing, fabulous Sheridan. Welcome to the Brand Builders Lab podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me again. How lucky am I? But there's a lot's changed.
Now, I have been watching you go from strength to strength. I have been watching everything unfold and just all of the amazing things that you're doing. And I love the fact that I was there right at the beginning of the whole inception and the idea and everything that you were thinking about creating. And so I just thought, something, I love journey stories and I really wanted to share yours with my audience. And so you're here again, and I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, and it's actually like crazy, Suze, because the expansion that we're going through at the moment is the exact same expansion that I went through with you. And it's like times 10 though. So it's a lot scarier. There's a lot more at stake, and there's a lot more lawyers and a lot more this and a lot more of that. But that's just what happens, I think, with growth. It's like you need more support, right?
Yeah, so good. So listen, for my audience that don't know your story, do you want to just take us through like where it all started? And I also want to talk about one of the things I really wanted to talk to you about was, I guess, the different iterations of the business, like where it started, how you've grown, what you've kind of learnt along the way through those different iterations. But you've also become a bit of a speaking, teaching, training superstar. I see you flying around the country, winning awards, running these incredible workshops. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that evolution too, because that looks like it's been amazing. So maybe let's start with the Mama West salon or collaborative space idea and where it all began.
Yeah, sure. So I guess for the viewers at home, I started my own salon background in a premium salon experience. So I've always had a great skill set. I actually didn't recognize how great my skill set was until I ended up leaving the salon, accidentally starting my own business. I call myself the accidental entrepreneur now. And I retained most of my clients when I started my own business. And then when word got out about my skill set and in the community, I just kept growing and growing my clientele in the backyard. So I went from washing hair in a plastic sink in my bathroom to expanding into my lounge room, bringing a real hair wash basin into my laundry in my one bedroom unit. And then I expanded into a granny flat, which was separate to my house. With a real salon basin and a separate entrance to my home. And then I had this crazy desire in the middle of the pandemic to get a space way too, or what I thought was way too large for me at the time, and grow a collaborative co-working hair salon, which was then the home to 6 individual women-led business, which got coverage all over Channel 9 News, Channel 10 News, Channel 7 News, The Age, The Herald Sun. It just kept going, and it was all very organic. There was no PR. I didn't even know what PR was at that time. Uh,
Yeah. I just want to ask though, because it was a new concept.
was
It was a new way. So what was the spark for the concept? Was it just to fill the space, or were you taking the space with the intention of it being a space for more businesses?
I think it's just who I am. Like I've always put I just felt a wave of emotion there actually about putting the needs of others before my own. So I think it's my superpower. I think not just about myself, but I think about others. I think about the community. Community is one of my number one pillars, and collaboration is also one of my pillars and values, and connection. So it was all about adding value to the community. And I think my other superpower is actually bringing people together. So I can take the really big risk, and I'm pretty bold and I'm pretty brave. And I think me taking the big risk left lower risk for other people that could come in and join the space. So it was, yeah, again, a bit of like just who I am. I think it's like even the space that we've got now, which I'll just touch on, I could have taken half the space that I now have, which is we've just signed the lease last year on a 336 square meter property. I could have taken half and just done my part. And to be honest, it would have been a lot easier. But it was just never an option. I was like, well, I take the whole thing or I don't take it at all. So it's just a bit of an all or nothing approach. It's my personality type as well. So I think that's kind of the philosophy. And I think working together, we can grow something bigger and bolder as well, I think. But what I didn't see coming is me growing into the space and us occupying the whole entire tenancy, but a tiny room that I still rent out to this day. I didn't expect that part.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so during your time where you are now before the move,
Yes.
what are some of the lessons that you've learned when it comes to either collaboration or business growth? Like, what are things where you're like, I just didn't realize that was a thing, or I just didn't know that, I needed to know these things? Like, what have been some of the business lessons you've learned as you've grown over the last few years?
Well, I think I really set myself up for success by firstly doing the course that you had put on as well, and also having a really good accountant starting up. I feel like I almost learnt the lessons before I started because I was so afraid, and my reaction to fear is action.
I love
So I
that.
just it honestly, it's the only thing that soothes my soul. And I think that is probably why I am so successful today, because I prepare, and it's the preparation that soothes my soul and anxiety. And I think, but along the way, I think having a really good accountant
Helps.
it definitely helps. And I think standing up for myself has been a huge lesson in business, having a good HR person. But again, it's like I've got so many people in my community. I didn't even know I needed a HR person until I'm doing a HR consultant's hair in my chair and she's explaining to me what she does. I'm like, I need you. And so, I just feel like I've been really held throughout all of this. And I love people. So I'm always drawing on people, asking questions, getting mentorship. So I think because of all of this, like I have had a lot of problems along the way, but I think it's the lawyer, it's the accountant, it's the HR person that have helped solve all of those problems. And I would also say, I'm just remembering when the success hit for me, Suze, it was actually the hardest thing I've ever gone through on a cellular level, because my business was growing, I was growing, I was getting opportunity after opportunity, but my low self-esteem at that time was adjusting, and like trying to accept success was probably my biggest hardship. I know it sounds really strange, but I was bawling my eyes out on a weekly basis because I just could not fathom the external versus the internal, if that makes sense. Whereas now I feel worthy. I feel like I deserve it. I work so hard. I don't stop. I am mad as a cut snake, but in the best way. And I think it's, it's all part of the journey of leveling up and believing in yourself and putting in the groundwork and, doing the breath work and the therapy and the yoga and all that stuff that really supports being an entrepreneur, because it's not easy solving problems on a daily basis. It can be very exhausting.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, there were two things I was going to ask you, because I know at the very beginning you said, you had learned a lot of skills that you didn't realize were actually quite unique and different, which
Yeah.
obviously set you apart and
Yeah.
helped you with your success. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that, but also, and you kind of mentioned there, therapy, yoga, etc. What was it that really helped you to start believing in yourself and start kind of seeing that this success, you were worthy of it?
Putting myself out there. It was like the more I put myself out there, like I remember when I was seeing in my industry, because when I first started, it wasn't about my industry, it was about the community. And I really neglected the hairdressing industry. And I felt, because I wanted to make a difference and I felt apart from. But the more I focused on community, the more I got recognized in the hairdressing industry. And truth be told, it's my other community. I am a hairdresser. And if I
Hmm.
want to make change and I want to make a difference, I've got to be a part of my inner community. So I think when I started putting myself out there and getting recognized at the Maribyrnong City Council Awards and then winning those awards and then nominating myself for the hairdressing industry awards and being recognized for the work that we're doing and being a finalist for Digital Influencer of the Year and newcomer salon, Australian newcomer salon of the year and Victorian salon of the year, just to name a few. Uh,
Love it. Love it.
it was those moments. And even I think the moment that changed my life was when I applied for the 2023 Australian Fame Team, which, for all of you that aren't aware, it's like the most prestigious Australian hairdressing program in our industry where you get mentored by, if you win a spot on the team, which is like a bit of a master chef situation where you go head to head against the best hairdressers in Australia and you can win one spot out of four. And I put myself in that room. I felt like there was a small part of me that believed I could do it, but probably an even bigger part of me that didn't. And then I got chosen for my skill set and for who I am. And that was probably the biggest turning point for me because my head was lying to me because the evidence around me was suggesting I've got the skill set, I am good enough, I am worthy, I'm being recognized in all of these areas. Like there was just too much evidence to suggest that I wasn't really good and I wasn't a good at what I do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. And I've always watched you and I love every time I see you get an award or I don't know, were you in London recently as well? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just always just like, I love watching your journey because I do think you're an absolute firecracker. And I think that, you are so passionate about community and you're so authentically you. And that's always come across. And so I love watching that. When it comes to your skill set, like talk to me a little bit about that. Like, what did you not realize that you were good at or that you had that isn't, I guess, common?
I think you kind of mentioned it there, Suze. It's the authenticity
Mm,
part. I think I was just learning the ropes of being who I really am. And I think Mama West is a very true representation of exactly my insides. And I think that is why we stand out. And I think because the colors represent me, it stands out from the crowd. Even
mm.
my own look, I stand out. I can't help it. It's just who I am. It's what I do. I feel most comfortable in a bright, yellow tracksuit because that's just where I feel like I belong. So I feel like that was probably more of it. The skill set was just again doubting my I think the skill set thing is I've always thought that I'm not good enough internally, but because of that driving I'm not good enough, it's actually made me pursue my skill set even harder because if I don't feel like I'm good enough, it's the action that I just talked about that puts me into the courses, that puts me into mentorship, that puts me in the mindset of, well, if I'm not good enough, what do I have to do to be good enough? So it's
Yeah.
been the greatest gift that's ever happened. And I'm now starting to believe there's still a part of me I think that I'll always have, but I love that part of me because I'm always moving and grooving and trying to learn and grow. And there's a humility in that, I think, too. But it can go the other way too, you know?
And I love that because I always say the term imposter syndrome, I actually see as a benefit.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that it feels not great in the moment, but I think if we use it in a way that you talk about, like the fear of not being good enough, we don't ever really want to feel like that. But if there's a kind of a desire to be better, where
Yes.
it's like maybe I
Yes.
could be better, maybe I could expand, maybe I could take more action here and learn. And like you said, it's the evidence through the action and the learning that then
Yes.
helps you to build that. But I actually love that. I'm kind of like, I always am wanting to learn. I always think I've got so much more to learn. And I know that I know a lot, but I'm
Yes.
also like, why would I ever think that my learning is done or like this is it? So I think
Uh,
that's such an important thing to have. And I love that you've used that as such a benefit and such a skill, really, to continue to grow and get better.
Yeah, and I think it's also a really good leadership tool as well, because if I see someone in my team that is better at something than I am, I praise them, I celebrate them, I put them in the room, I bring that out of them, and then they feel good about themselves as well. So I think I've learned, I think when I first started, I wanted to be the best and better than anyone in my team, and now I want to be the worst because it's like it just gives my team more opportunities and gives them, yeah, the reason to then believe in themselves and empower them through the journey that I've just gone through. That if I'm not doing it and then throwing them forward, then I obviously believe enough in them to be in the room. Like we're in Sydney that just last weekend doing the House of Silky ball, which was incredible. It got featured all through Vogue and Rush magazine, and honestly, I was not expecting the coverage. Again, it's like it's so much nicer when you don't see it coming. But half of my team were with me, and I knew I needed them on my team for this to be a successful day. And even the feedback from the House of Silky were, we can tell that your team are queer friendly. We can tell you the team are really good at what they do. Like that was the feedback. It's like a comfort zone. It's not just me, it's now we, and we are stronger together and be able to deliver great, exceptional hair services in every skill set, not just one particular.
Yeah, and I just don't think you can grow your business if everything rests on your shoulders. So you actually want to have a team that is exceptional so you can step away when you need to and the business still runs really well. The brand is still aligned and
Yeah.
intact and doing what you need it to do. Like I think that's actually the ultimate thing is to build a team of really great people under you who you allow to become better than you or who you allow to kind of you know move forward and up because then then you've got a team that want to stay because if you're
Exactly.
somebody who's being stifled and who's not being given responsibility that's never going to foster a team that want to stay with you want to grow with you want to support you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
and I think it
important.
took me a long time to start to let people in because I was such a,
Mm,
oh my God, I had my claws in. I was doing everything. No one could do things as good as me. So it hasn't just ended up there. Like it's
mm.
been through pain that I've had to, if I want to grow and I want to be bigger and I want to be greater and I want to serve more, we need people to be able to do that. So I think my heart is now starting to open to receive the people that can do that. And I probably have the best team I've ever had in the 3.5 years because my heart's grown, and my partner's now in the business as well, and let me tell you, it was in the business 2 years ago and it didn't go as well as it's going now, but now it's like he's just, oh my God, like I can't even put into words the contribution that he brings that I can't bring some of the time. When I'm jet setting around Australia, being flown to do Fashion Week and all of that stuff, it's like there's someone in the salon that my team trust. He's also a great leader as well. His leadership skills are really great, which is really hard to find. We don't want
Yeah.
leader, we want leaders. It's like we're growing, and now there's all these extra responsibilities that my team now have, like educators, social media, admin. So we just stick to everyone's strengths and give them extra responsibilities that they are looking for. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about the growth of your personal brand because I remember once again years ago, you were like, I got asked, I think you got asked to speak at Victoria University. It was
Yeah.
like one of the first things.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation about that at the time.
Yeah.
And so what do you think? I mean, obviously you're doing the work that you're doing and just doing such an amazing job. But is there anything that, and you did say that you're putting yourself in the room, which I think is great. But when it comes to your personal brand, is there anything else that you're sort of focused on or that you're quite deliberate and intentional about?
You see me. You see me.
I
You
see you, girl.
see
I
me.
see you.
So I think the hardest part about firstly, building a business is like you've only got so much capacity. And I think the first couple of years was about building Mama West. But then I stopped taking on clients. So I wasn't focusing on Sheridan Roseshore from Mama West. I was thinking about building Mama West, and neglected me in that. And what I then started to realize when I started getting all of these opportunities like speaker gigs, getting onto Fame Team, they didn't care about Mama West. They cared about Sheridan Roseshore. And Sheridan Roseshore had to bring everyone on the journey of Fame Team and show how remarkable it is to be in London learning from the best hairdressers around the world. So I started to slowly but surely build Sheridan Roseshore, which was separate to Mama West. And I am fine. And it was hard. I wasn't getting the likes. I wasn't getting the instant gratification. I wasn't getting the following. I wasn't getting this. I wasn't getting that. So part of me almost dropped the ball because I was like, oh, well, it's hard work. Like, but now I've picked up the ball, and I picked up the ball in this year again. And I've just been consistent, because if I'm not consistent, I'm invisible, and no one likes being invisible, especially me. Uh, so I like to feel seen. I like to feel heard. And we've been really consistent on Instagram and TikTok for all the brands, Mama West, all of my teams, aliases as well. They're building their own personal brands in Mama West. And then Sheridan Roseshore, who is an educator, as well as an original mineral ambassador, as well as a timely ambassador, which is all these gigs that you start to get when you start to build a platform. So that's been a very strategic kind of sharing, because I was sharing on Mama West, Mama West, Mama West, because I get what I thought I needed. But truth is, my personal brand, I can be a little bit more authentic. I can post my son and me having a really hard moment, and it feels appropriate. Whereas, Mama West is now the team's growing Mama West, and now I'm trying to grow my own brand. So I think, yeah, I wish I did them both at the same time, but I if I shoulda, woulda, coulda, I actually
Mm.
couldn't, because I was so obsessed and fixated on growing a business that I didn't have capacity. And now it's own brand, it's holding itself. So now it's time to grow me as an
I love
individual.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about your personal brand for the future, are there things that you've got in your line of vision, in your
Yes.
goals?
Yes. So
What are you going after next now that you've conquered Australia and you've been to London?
look, I am doing something, yes, very scary. I actually read this book at the start of this year by Elizabeth Gilbert. I think that was her name. And it was all about doing the things that you really want to do. And it was this 3 month course. I wish I could. I'll give you the name of the book
Mm.
after we're off this call if anyone wants to read it. But it actually changed my life, because I acknowledged to myself that I wanted to shoot a collection for Victorian Hairdresser of the Year, and under Sheridan Roseshore, which is me. And I have been pursuing that for the last 6 months now, and I'm going to be shooting in July. And
Explain to me what that means. When you say a collection of what?
so it's like a collection of 6 images that basically represents your aesthetic, your skill set, your taste, and yeah, and that it's like a big fashion collection basically with
Okay.
amazing hair. And you go head to head against all the best hairdressers in Victoria, and you will be maybe one of 5 finalists, and maybe even win Victorian Hairdresser of the Year. So I think for me, I am really lucky. I got hit with on being a really good entrepreneur, but also having the creative brain too. I
Yeah.
don't know how, but I feel like I've got both sides of the coin. And I feel like I've hid behind my business entrepreneurial spirit because there's been so much success in that. But deep down, I want to be recognized for my skill set as well. So I think this is just marrying the two. I'm putting myself out there in a much more vulnerable, artistic way, which is really scary. But deep down, that's what I want to do, not to be seen, but to explore my own creativity and see what comes from that. And also, just be able to look back over my career and see a collection of images that represents me at this time in my life, and to be able to see growth basically. So that's my next venture, as well as launching my own personal education brand this year, which is very exciting. We've gotten so much bites with my we're just doing one in July, with one of my friends, Darcy. It's a collaboration, and we're basically saturating the market with stuff that just isn't taught. So I see myself as filling gaps. I'm always looking for gaps in the market and just trying to fill the gap. And often I think that's why we are quite successful, because we're always just trying to give people what isn't available. So
Yeah.
that's just to name a few.
Love it. I love it. So, so good. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about is just kind of going back to building the Mama West brand, because now
Yes.
you're in expansion mode. And yes, like now it's a separate brand to you as well. And so
Yes.
when you think about the Mama West brand and the way in which you wanted to build it and the
Yes.
foundations of it, and now I guess it's growth,
Yes.
what have you once again intentionally and strategically decided to do with it, or how have you intentionally and strategically grown it?
Yeah, so I think I'm such a level upper, and again, if you haven't figured that out yet, I really enjoy growth. I don't, maybe sometimes enjoy, most of the time I don't. But at the end of it, I really do, because it's like that's how we become someone new, or
Mm.
who we were always destined to be. But for me, I remember the moment where I was started looking at this bigger space. I feel like I was really led to this bigger space, and I was inspired by the hairdressing industry to, just go bigger and go bolder. And I could see all of the people that had walked the path before me in these big ass dreamy spaces. And then I see where I'm at 3.5 years, and I'm kind of like, I don't want to wait 10 years. Like, I know what I want. I'm going to skip the middle steps, and I'm going to throw myself in the ringer, and I'm going to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of like, I've just looked at the actions of others and thought to myself, I want to be over there. Plus, I think our brand, I wanted to continue the momentum, because I felt the momentum start to drop as well. So I was like, wait a minute, if I expand, it will only continue the momentum. I've done this before. I'll bring everyone on the journey again. I know what I did the last time worked. And so let's go. So it was a bit crazy, and my accountant thought I was mad. And in fact, he did say to me, "You can't do this right now. You're going to put yourself in the red." And I waited a whole year and went back to him and said, "I let it go. I'm still thinking about it. I want to do this." And I'll never forget when the other accountant that was supporting him said, "Sheridan, I can't believe this. A year ago, you said, I want to do this. You held, you didn't do it. And then a year later, you're in the position that you can do it." And it's like, I put in that work, and I just didn't let go of my vision. And I think yeah, go big and go bold, Suze. I think that's how I found you, because I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Preaching to the converted.
Oh yeah.
Preaching to the
You were talking
converted.
to me. You were
I
talking
love
to
it. Yeah,
me.
that's
Yeah.
so good. And so now you've got this bigger space. And like you said, like you're not taking up the whole space. You've got other people that are collabing. So what is the new space going to look like? Where is it? What's happening?
Yeah, so I think when I first found the Mama West space, we're very limited to commercial property in the West, and the space has really served us. But there were little things that didn't tick my box, and I think it's my premium salon background that just can't get over that we're not like in a city. So we're positioned now in Footscray. And again, I've filled the gaps of being all day parking behind Mama West. I think positioning of being in a closer to the city, 10 minutes from the city, is really important when you are a premium salon, because
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't matter how big and bold you are, you can't shake the energy around a place. You'll still get people that'll be like, "Where's that?" Or
Mm.
if someone doesn't know where Footscray is, I'm like, and then they know. And I'm like, oh, so it's like, it's just that people need to know, they need to understand when you're trying to show them who you are. So that was important. And even like the aesthetic, we're going through like an expansion of look and feel, and we're not rebranding, but we're just like changing our color palette and getting people excited for something new. Because scientifically, if we look at the same thing over and over again, like we don't get that same spark in the brain. But when we look at something new, it brings new energy and excitement
Mm.
in the brain. So I feel like not just for everyone else, but for me, I walk into my salon and it feels white, but
Yeah.
it's the most colorful salon you've ever seen. So I think it's just, it's normal to people now. Whereas I think this is new, it's exciting, it's the best basins on the market, it's the best chairs, and it's still same concept but more futuristic than vintage. And yeah, that's my thinking and feeling.
I always use the analogy of being like a glow stick, where sometimes you've got to break it in order to glow brighter. And I think, and
Yeah.
I, and I think sometimes we just get so used to like what it is that we've done that that we're like, oh, but I've had this and it's gotten me to here, and
Oh,
we love it, and it's us.
yeah.
And I think that brand consistency is good, but I
Yeah.
think that shaking things up every
Yeah.
now and again is so important. And I love the fact that you're like, we're still staying the same, we're changing the color palette, we're changing the interiors, all the rest of it, just to kind of get that energy and momentum back, which I think is so exciting.
Yes, yes, because it's like a relationship. It's like I've been with my partner now for 6 years. If we didn't put in some time and energy to build that relationship, I think if we just if it's what it's always done and it's always served, like maybe, but it's just not the vibe. And to be honest, it's not for anyone else. It's really for me because I get so bored of the same four walls. And the difference with this particular expansion is I signed an 8-year lease on purpose because I can't run away. I have to be able to learn to like, I need grounding in my life now that I'm 31. I need to be able to
Still
stay
a
in.
baby, Sheridan. Yeah.
I am such a baby. And I feel like an old soul though, because I had to grow up super quickly. But yes, I'm still, I need to be able to, like, imagine the world will only be the oyster if I can still find ways to expand by still being in the same space. So that's my new adventure. Well, maybe we'll do another podcast about that in a few years if I've been able to listen to it. I'll probably have another something. There'll be something going on. So
Yeah. The next time I speak to you will be like, so we're in every major city in Australia. Yeah. We're about to open in London. Yeah. New York.
oh my God. Well, look, you never know because I did say I would never be a salon owner. I did say so many things. I did say I would never have a salon outside of the West. I don't see that ever happening. But you just, I can't say anything because I'm so fluid and I'm always going with the flow and wherever it takes me, which is really fun. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so amazing. So, so good. Well, I have loved watching you grow. I love watching all of your awards and all of your travel. And I love that you are shaking things up. And I'm excited for this new chapter and this new expansion. And so, for my listeners, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? All the rest of it. We'll have all your links in the show notes. But for those who are on the go, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find us on TikTok at Mama West and also Mama. That's me. And then on Instagram, you can find us at Mama West with an underscore. And you can also find my personal brand, Sheridan Rochelle, which you will find some, yeah, very authentic, very real, very vulnerable sides to all of life. Being a parent, being a business owner, expanding, yeah, and in all ways. So yeah, I look forward to connecting with you on there.
I love it. Thanks so much for being here. Lovely. So good to see you.
Pleasure. Thank you.